is it camcorder or
fine.
is it?
They're all pretty decent. Most piracy comes out of post houses anyway these days. Yeah. It's because it's a file. It's not someone sitting there for an hour and a half camming it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They basically just get a file, whip, done. Oh, and a guy in Germany can put subtitles on it. He can watch it and type it up, put them up, link them all together. You can have an Indonesian version. You can have an Italian version. You can,
Where's the not the break in the chain, but where's the leakage coming from in terms of getting the film from the production house to the distribution to the exhibitor? It's just there's too many parties. There's too much space for someone to nick it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there is. It's as secure as it is, and as kind of vigilant as people can be. There's always one bad apple.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who basically just, or there's a simple chain where he gets left on a really vulnerable server for 20 minutes and people just nick it.
And is that not a gap in the market in the sense that there's no way to encrypt that file or have any sense of security?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's talking about blockchain.
Yeah.
That's actually, the idea that there is a fundamental secure network that we all subscribe to because we're not going to do anything wrong. What's our concern? It just means that my data is secure, your data is secure. We can be transparent, and everything stays within the kind of blockchain that goes from. Yeah, that's one idea.
So for instance, I have a background. I came from corporate law. Lawyers do not adopt change quickly at all. Do you think the film? I think the traditional film entities are quite similar in the sense that I don't think they're going to rush to adopt blockchain. There are fast movers in the market like Netflix.
Yeah, I think it's going to need something quite big because I think blockchain is such a weird idea. But look what's happening with the whole social media thing. Everyone's been giving away detail and info. You are a known entity by so many companies, and your data has been sold thousands of times. But you've done that purely because you haven't had to pay Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything.
So you're willing, you're happy.
People are willing to.
Do you care? Do you care that data? We watched this Netflix documentary, 5,000 data points. Do you care that they have that on you?
Yeah, because I'll occasionally like to fuck things up. Like I will click on an ad just as like I have no interest.
Just to throw it off.
I was like, my God, he's interested in male diapers or female, like
incontinence. And then you're targeted with incontinence ads.
That guy's like shit.
But then what? Aren't you shooting yourself in the foot? Because now you're getting targeted with incontinence ads for the next 3 months.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'm skeptical, but I'm not doing anything shady online. I know, whatever. My phone's probably recording this, but there's a give and take, and I think I think there should be more responsibility from all the social media guys. It's a well discussed issue.
There's a lot of ink.
But that's the thing. I think where blockchain comes into it. So the idea that you also you look at all these services. I mean, take one simple thing that a blockchain structure could do quite easily. If between my Netflix account, my iTunes account, my Sky, my Apple Plus, my Peacock, and everything else. I'm going to be drowning in apps. But if everyone's kind of sitting in a blockchain and I've got a little blockchain keychain, and I just go, all right, okay, well, where is the film I want to watch now? Where is the king of comedy? Okay, it's not on Netflix, it's not on Sky. Oh, but you'll find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
If you've got to blockchain that, if everyone's if I know all my data is secure across all these services, and I can be in my office or I can be in my in-laws, and I can just log in and find it. And I know I'm secure, my data's not being manipulated or exploited massively.
How's that different from Googling King of Comedy, seeing what platform it's on, logging in on the platform and streaming it?
Because I'll probably forget my password.
Okay.
Like fuck, it's like shit, which one is it? It's like, okay, because you can't have one password, you got 5. And then do you
actually have 5 passwords?
I have more than one password, yeah.
Okay. I have more than one password, but maybe the difference is a number or two.
It's mad, and then you got, and they keep running it to change for 6 months. Jesus Christ. Where was it on this?
Really, really interesting for blockchain, I think, is the receivables from film profits. So in terms of it's essentially like an equity model, and you give everyone in the crew, and then every time you stream it, it just automatically distributes back to your blockchain.
Well, that is another issue. I mean, that the idea as well. I mean, that not everybody wants to share their revenues at the moment. There are business models that are not built on theatrical box office. But however, the traditional model is very much a film makes X at the box office. It is considered this value in the theatrical market. But then, of course, people are sitting on that. It's not part of their business to work off those numbers. Those numbers aren't fully representative of the business. So I guess that's the other thing. It's the open transparency within that blockchain that people will still be reluctant to do, because at the same time you're dealing with different people. We, from a distribution side, we deal with different cinemas, whether it's the majors, the big indies, or the small one screen reps.
Mom and pops.
Like, so you just, and they've all got different approaches on what. And they'll all put a different value on our value.
Interesting.
Yeah, we did this on it, but it's not very good.
Yeah.
We didn't feel the film really worked for us, but like, we made shitloads of money. And also we don't know how much money they make on popcorn.
Exactly.
And they don't want to share that. And also, it's a really interesting.
So it's pretty opaque, the information they give you back, the feedback they give on how well the film is done.
Generally,
contextually opaque.
Generally, yeah. We know the box office.
Yeah.
And of course, then the question is, whose data is that? Is that our information? Is that our information to be shared? That we need to we take our information from them, and then we do whatever we want with it, or do they give us the opportunity to share their information?
I think there's a strong argument for saying the box office information is your information, because that's how you determine your profits, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of conversations going on right now with some of the platforms over that.
Yeah, I know, because the information release is atrocious.
Yeah.
If you put anything up on, I think it's Prime and iTunes, definitely 6 months, they won't tell you anything. At least if you're doing independent as an independent filmmaker.
Yeah,
and 6 months lag time. You don't know what's working. You don't know what's not working.
And that's it. I mean, how many filmmakers have just said, right, I'm not going to shop this film for 2 years. I'm going to just sell it to a platform and let them do with it and do what they want, and they don't know how really successful the film's been.
No.
There's lots of platforms talking about, the film, our film opened, we released our film on the platform on Friday, it's had X million views. Yeah. It's like, okay, that could be 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They could be watching it for 10 minutes ago, this is rubbish.
This is shit.
Yeah, I'm not, we don't know how many people are watching it through. But this is it. So it's kind of like, at the moment there's an information war, because they're all trying to lean on each other and try and gain from someone else's performance and how this is working, and it's really interesting.
In terms of alternative models, Seed and Spark in the States.
No.
Seed and Spark, it's basically the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter just for film, just for independent film. But they've been that for a while. They have, I can't remember who heads it up. Do you remember her name, George? Someone that heads it up. She's like a huge advocate for independent film. She does so many podcasts, so much promotion.
Right.
It seems like a great platform. They've had a lot of success. But they're trying to build out a streaming service from their crowdfunding platform.
Right.
And now they're just trying to attract filmmakers. So basically, they're trying to create the supply for their streaming platform.
Yeah.
They are giving filmmakers a per minute rate of 80 cents if someone watches your film.
Jesus.
That's insane. It's a 90-minute film. That's $60 for watching your film. So I don't know. They must have an enormous amount of equity investment or enough profits.
Yeah.
To be able to just, I mean, you don't have so many questions. You kind of take it. If it's there, you'll take it as a filmmaker.
It's really interesting, because those. I mean, is that kind of global platform then?
No, I don't. It's not available in the UK.
So you can move on the. So you can still exploit your rights outside the US. It's effectively, if you got a film that pops a little bit.
Yeah. I can imagine. I am absolutely not the authority on that.
Yeah, God, it's still really. Yeah,
it's just early doors, to all this creative alternative self distribution stuff. Anyway, I've jumped the gun a little bit. So from your past, I didn't realize you went to Boston College,
BU,
Boston University. Yeah. So where are you grew up in Bermuda or grew up in the UK?
Yeah, I was in. I grew up in Bermuda and then came to school here, boarding school here. And then went back to the US. Well, went to the US for college.
Okay. A-levels?
In the UK, yeah. So it's good.
How'd you like BU?
It's a good school. It's a good city. It's fun. It was a really good time. For being in a city and having a massive campus and actually a really quite a broad catchment of students. It was really good fun.
And did you move into film pretty soon after? Because you studied communications, correct?
Yes, so I did film. I did English. I did communications. So I kind of mass communications, PR, and then I did English with a concentration in film.
Nice.
So interestingly, I am generally fulfilling my qualifications.
Nice. How rare.
Yeah, it's quite a rare one.
And so did you move straight into film afterwards as a consultant capacity, or where did you go after BU?
I came back here and I worked for CNN for a year, which is quite interesting. It was 2002. So lots going on in terms of Middle East, and kind of cut my teeth in a kind of live press office. We're very reactionary, having to really kind of just look at what's going on with the news agenda, how CNN were covering it,
and how they were getting eyeballs on there.
Yeah, exactly. What was, as a news source at a time when Fox News was new, the BBC, ITV News, Reuters, AP, everyone was fighting over breaking news stories, and CNN obviously having a big reputation. CNN International versus CNN Domestic, how that positioned. And then, I've always had a passion in film, and I had an opportunity to join Momentum in 2003, which is at the time quite interesting because it was they'd had a hit with Bowling for Columbine, Oh Brother Art Thou. They were still very much an independent British distributor, but they had a Canadian, they're part of a Canadian company, the Alliance Atlantis. So we went from having, I think within 2-3 years, having a sizable number of foreign language films with hardly any bankable stars, to moving more into the bigger independent titles. So things that were being kind of coming out of the States were more substantial titles, whether it would be certainly Lost in Translation being one of the that indie darling, that gear change.
Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine again, and that these were all these kind of focused feature films as well. So this is some studio money in there, but very much independent thinking.
Were you at Momentum during the time that it went from that switch to more US independent studio money?
Yeah, a little bit. I came just out the back of it.
How did it change? How did it change while you were there?
Well, we definitely had more of a, we were scaling up, becoming a bit bigger. And obviously when you have the successes, it gives you more clout in the market. So that's everything from going to a market, talking to independent producers, talking to sales agents, all the way through to exhibitors and home end. So you had, there was the titles were getting bigger. We had a few more hits. Everything was a little bit more substantial. So it just gave us more... gave us more clout in the market. Did
it change the objectives, or maybe not objectives? Did it change the culture of the company?
Pretty much.
For the better, for the worse?
No, for better.
Okay.
We just became a lot more confident, and there was a real, we'd been working with Chinese directors who didn't speak English, and then all of a sudden we got Sofia Coppola, and there were a lot of other people who were coming in wanting to work with us. As opposed to needing to be in markets and finding films of a smaller degree.
Yeah.
So it was good. We had it was a great run, and actually, considering what that helped propel us towards, and also the state of the British independent distribution game at the time. We elevated above a number of other companies. It was really competitive, very competitive.
Yeah. Did you take anything from CNN that you then used at Momentum?
A little bit. Certainly the office culture, the understanding of how a team works. It was very, we were CNN, and it was really interesting working from a 24-hour news agenda where you didn't know what was going to happen the next day. And we had some corporate ideas there, which we were kind of working towards, brand affiliations and certainly pushing the brand. And then you get to Momentum, and independent distribution is really fascinating because you are one thing one week, and then the next you're working on an entirely different film. You're product launching a film every 2 months. So that's, went through that idea of releasing films, releasing a British independent story of adolescence, and then talking about Chinese father and son, small story, to then talking about a bunch of kids at camp. Independent musical camp. Yeah. So there was a real range, and I think that's one of the things that's always been fun about distribution is you're as long as you've got a different range of films, you're working on so many different things.
Absolutely. And so your day-to-day at Momentum, was it picking up phones, trying to get films in to the exhibitors, or what was your role?
On the publicity side of things, and that was a time certainly within the UK there were loads of film magazines. It was still very this is pre-social media. This is when websites were small extensions of publications. So it was all about you're getting your print coverage, whether it be the big magazines, whether it be Empire, Premiere at the time, Total Film, Hot Dog, and there were loads of film magazines and loads of film writers. Every city had a regional film journalist. So it was a Manchester film editor, it was a Newcastle film, so you could do things regionally.
So it's just getting the film in front of them, getting them talking about it.
Yeah, exactly, and it was quite straightforward. It was the sense of we are releasing a film in 100 cinemas around the country. We want to show the film to all the journalists in those outside of London and in London. We want them writing about the film, and we want them interviewing the talent and reviewing as possible.
So was that your first step in terms of if you ever to have a PR strategy? It's get it in the hands of the journalists first.
Well, it depends on the film, really. I mean, every film's very different, and I think the strategies had to change quite a lot since, because there's so many different voices. It was, I'd say 10 years ago, 14 years ago, I could show a film to somebody and they would be quite quiet about it. They wouldn't be able to, they could write something and within 12 hours, 24 hours, it could be in a newspaper. Yeah. Show a film to someone now, they could walk out in the middle of the film and tweet about how bad it is, or the fact that they're seeing it, or how good it is. Yeah. So the time between people talking about it's very fast. And
does that mean the time that it takes them to start talking about it is also quite fast? They can just drop
possibly,
off?
Yeah, and if anything, they're just being drowned by more and more films, and everything else is happening at a time. Yeah. So, but that kind of old school traditional approach. I mean, I still hark back to it. I'm nostalgic. I like newspapers. I like print. I like magazines.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. I mean, it's difficult too because that's just when media's changed as well. People talk about print having to revolutionize. Certainly, online is going through another change now. You can you coexist as a print publication and have a website? People have done that. Magazines have said, right, well, here's our online edition, and they've seen their print sales fall.
I mean, do you think that's in the finance industry and the politics and the sort of the cultural commentary? Definitely. Do you think that in film it works? I think Screen Daily has a magazine, but I only use their
mainly
website.
For markets. For substantial times. I mean, I remember that too. The trades were the trades. You get them every week. You'd have them come through in the office. They'd be passed around. People would tick it when they read it. Yeah. So you made sure that everyone had seen Variety that week who needed to see it. And now, you get mail, you get emails, you get email alerts. You read them online. You see the tweets.
5 times a day. You get an email alert.
I mean, that's it. You'll get one breaking news story, and then 5 minutes later, the same publication will send you another breaking news story. Yeah. So your inbox just churns through the news cycle.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it.
I do appreciate aggregators now. Previously, I used to put everything into a Gmail folder called Newsletters Film, and every 3 minutes, about 50 emails would come through. But now you have aggregators where it'll send you one email. The email is, maybe 300 articles deep. You just scan through,
that's
move
it.
on.
I mean, I think most of I'd say probably a quarter of my mailbox is just newsletters and updates. And of course, that's from then that's me looking outward. That's more trade. It is, when we get a good hit, we want to put a trade story out. Yeah. Great, they've got to pick up, but we know it's going to get railroaded in a couple of minutes. So we've got to feed it back into the social media machine. We've got to push it back out there if it's a story we want to talk about. Yeah. So we've got to make sure that the trades are tweeting it, they're using the right handles. We're retweeting it, we're liking it, we're sharing it, we're putting it on LinkedIn profiles where it's relevant for people. So there's a whole... that's gone to the days where you used to get a nice trade piece. You paste it up, you photocopy it, you send it around the office, and that was a press cutting that you keep because there's a nice bit of press coverage around the announcement of a deal or a film. Yeah. That's my old school approach. But we have to adapt, and that's fine. I think that's quite interesting.
So you think you have to adapt in the sense that even if a lot of people I think are harkening back to a time of being more patient, taking more time. But you think that in a competitive marketplace like distribution, you do have to adapt. You can't hold the same ideals as you once did.
I think the 24-hour cycle is unsustainable. Yeah. But I think for people's own mental health, often, I think it is nice to be able to just not look at an email for a weekend. Is to put everything kind of within a working day and working environment. Time zones is something always faced. The fact that it's LA waking up and we're going home, that's always been something which is a bit of an issue. But when you've got to get to it, if you're under pressure to put a schedule together, you put it to put something in to bed, and everyone needs to kind of work around it. We're happy to deal with a midnight phone call in the right circumstances. But it is fast now. Everything's fast, and everyone's got to be responsive at all times of the week. And I mean, that isn't entirely sustainable, and it does create a lot of pressure on people. Yeah.
Do you think, this is a bit of a tangent, but do you think that mental health rates and anxiety is actually increasing because of that information overload, or are we just now diagnosing it correctly?
I think it's more being more recognized. I think this industry has been pressurized, and it can be quite cruel on people. Some of the nicest people I've worked with in the industry you remember because you just think that's a pleasant experience. But we've worked with nightmare people who just think they are, they're entitled to everything, and you're not working with them, you're working for them.
Well, not names, but which usually particular roles those people fill, as in, are they the directors of the film? Are they the production company themselves?
It's a range of people.
Okay.
Whether
They're all over the place.
It could be anyone. Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean you take example. Look at personal publicity. The idea that they have a client, and the client could be the nicest person in the world, but everyone around that client is fighting for the client. The bulldog approach.
Yeah.
But if you come to me and say, right, I'd like a first class flight for my client. I'm sorry, we can't afford a first class flight. It's not within our budget. It's not what we do. Then okay, that's fine. I understand. Or you get the bulldog who just goes, right, no, we're doing it, or nothing else is happening. And there's a line between a good negotiator and there is a line between a bulldog. And then
all that warfare.
And there's lots of people like that. You've got to appreciate that. If I spend a lot of money on you, that money doesn't just magically come from somewhere. It's got to be taken away from another part of the campaign.
Yeah. So do you have to deal with those people?
Yeah.
So you can't just work with people, because I think that's an ideal that's bandied around amongst independent filmmakers. In the sense that you construct the crew, you construct the cast that you like, you only work with people you want to work with. Yeah. But you think that's overly idealistic?
Generally, yes. And it's not necessarily those main people you're working with. It's the people around them.
Okay.
So you're often not negotiating with the person who you want directly. You're going through their conduits, their agents, their managers, their publicists, their assistants.
Whose incentive to be as harsh as possible.
Well, exactly. They want the best thing for their client, and it can be difficult. But there are some times when actually the person themselves are difficult. I've kind of had had to deal with a lot of directors who are not that many, but some who don't see you as doing your job. They know more about everything than you do.
Yeah, you're a grunt, a means to an end.
You're a grunt, you're a means to the end, or it's just a question of you don't really know what you're doing, or you're wasting my time, or this is not necessary. Generally, then there are people who can be very pleasant and say, "Do we need to do this?" And that might help you reflect it.
Yeah.
Or you might just be running out of time and say, right, let's just prioritize what we need to do before you get on this flight or the other constraints.
Yeah. So at least I guess how that piece fits into at least discussing your time of momentum. If one of the first things, depending on the film, because each approach is different, is to sort of get it out amongst journalists to build up the noise. The time when you're going to interact with these bulldogs, is that for press junkets, for people involved with the film itself?
Generally, yeah, exactly. It's when you start liaising with the filmmakers. You need to, and it wasn't my role. I started at the bottom of the totem pole within the kind of publicity team, and then within the distribution team. But the minute you're interested in that film and you buy that film, you have a relationship with the filmmakers. Yeah. And that's everyone from the directors, the cast, the producers, and beyond, the financiers and everyone else. So coming to report how the film what stage is the film in? We are looking to date the film. We have a date for the film. We are looking to commit X amount of pounds as a P&A spend. That managing and keeping the filmmakers up to date is par for what we have to do. That's basics. Sometimes the filmmakers don't care. They moved on to other projects. It's like, okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah. Or sometimes they want to be in the room for every creative decision and discussion. They want to handhold a film which they think is a big rom-com or female-focused film, and actually it's a big action movie for the guys who like action movies. Yeah. So there are some interesting conversations. It is again the best thing is to be collaborative and understanding. We're experts at what we do. You need to trust us. Realistically, we want you to help us as much as possible. If we need to get someone over the line on something, we need your help. But we're going to do it together, as opposed to you tell us how to do it, or we cut you out unless something goes completely haywire. Yeah. It is a delicate issue. It can be a delicate issue. Yeah. Because this is something that filmmakers have spent lots of time, years, months, hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars. Yeah, personally, financially, that's it. That they've invested a lot of themselves into these films. A lot of the people do struggle to let go. Yeah, a lot of filmmakers do, but you need to earn their trust, and that's one of the really key things: kind of trust and collaboration.
Which is, do you think, is basically just aligned vision?
Generally, yeah.
Okay.
And also just understanding that what we feel best for the film is this, and you have to trust us.
Yeah.
And it's generally it's got to be commercially viable too. That's the end of the day. It's a business.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I love a funny film. There are films I love which are commercially just toxic.
Disasters.
Yeah, and no one's going to go near them. But at the same time, I like a good dumb action movie because it ticks a box, it delivers, and we know it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think everyone who's worked in distribution has worked on a film they just do not like, but they know it's commercial, and that's fine. But the beauty is there are also films that you love.
Yeah.
So it's you've got to be able to have the commercial films in order for you to have the films that you love.
When you went on from Momentum, did you spend time as a consultant between Momentum and Altitude?
No, I went straight in.
Okay.
And actually, at the time, there wasn't a consultant gap in the market.
Okay.
And I was
there was
young.
No demand.
I was young, and I was ready to.
You're still pretty young.
Yeah. Feel it. But it is. I was young and just ready to throw myself into it, and it's London. It was buzzing. I always had been a film fan. It was a broad range of films, and it was great to put yourself in a world where you could just sit and talk about it as a business.
Yeah.
So you could sit and talk about your top directors or your favorite obscure foreign language films, or the first time you saw this movie, and you go to screenings and you meet other people in the industry and you be able to talk about films and then what you're doing. I was also, and still am, a kind of magazine reader and understood media and consuming TV, radio, and I was interested in finding out more about that world and who the writers were and what they wanted to write about. So that kind of fit.
And we're providing a platform for them to write?
Yeah, well, just getting to know them and know what their interest is. How do you get Empire Magazine excited?
Yeah.
You show them a film which whatever, all the studio buzz is there, but you've got to be able to give them a film they can discover. It's like, I've just seen a film which no one else. I've just found this film, and that still exists these days. When you get look at the festivals when a film just. It goes from nothing to like this is the hit. This is the festival hit. This is the darling. So the opportunity, and that's still very much a really key idea for film journalism, is you want people to feel like they discovered a film.
Yeah.
They're first in. Because otherwise, everyone can't wait for the next Star Wars, but we know it's coming. And we know what to expect. But if I've just seen a gem of a film which I hadn't heard about, I'm going to be revitalized a little bit. I'm going to get behind it and support it.
Why do you think why is the first to the door concept so romantic? Why does it make people into their film?
Well, it makes them sound forward thinking. They're the guy. And there are loads of examples of films which have been championed by the press, which have gone on to have cult status and been revered. The films which had possibly been overlooked within the industry even. And then some journalists go and see it and go, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So the buzz is there.
Does cult status often just go hand in hand with critic approval?
Sometimes, not all critics, because obviously if you look at most critics, some of them they lean a bit more conservative, they lean a bit more, they can be a little bit more art house, and then there are some who love something which is just out there and they'll go for it.
Yeah.
And I think cult is also a bit of one of those words you go, oh, it's cult, well, that's going to be small. And cult, effectively is a film which doesn't really hit the mainstream,
but has an enormous
just continues.
Audience.
It just plateaus. It goes. It never hit the heights. It didn't make the big box office. I'd say it was a disappointment up front.
But over time,
people will still come around and they'll still talk about the film 15, 20 years later. It's still consumed regularly and talked about and referred to. Generally, because it's pushing through a slightly different direction. Yeah,
as someone who it sounds like you consume a lot of magazines and a lot of commentary and critique, do you have a 2 cents on film critics and what their role in the market should be? Is it telling us how to think because we can't think for ourselves?
No, it's just putting it into the discussion, and you need to have a discussion. I mean, the fear is that you just have a homogenized market where you talk about every big studio film that's coming out this week, when in fact. There are, in the UK, there's about 15 films being released a week. Yeah. But if you look at you open up a newspaper, again, it kind of falls into the state of the current media. That's all dictated by advertising. How much space in a paper is generally dictated by advertising. How much editorial space. So if you look at the New York Times, if you look at the Times, if you look at the Guardian, those people who commit to reviewing every film released in the week, or at least did commit to, that's great, because I could be sitting there and I might be interested in a black and white retrospective documentary. Oh, but look, actually, here's quite a good review for this new superhero movie. So I might be interested, but I might also be looking through, see the review of the superhero movie and find out about the black and white retrospective. So I think all films should be within reason, should be given a critical platform. And I would like as many critics and to write about all these films.
What's the lower threshold of every film gets reviewed? Is it every film that makes an appearance in a picture house goes on? Yeah. It's not every film that is released that week, surely. No,
well, generally, well, to an extent it is actually. But the problem is if you have certainly got your platforms and people then, did you be talking about home end releases and films coming out 16-week window? I think more people, film criticism needs to exist across the board, and it should be promoted in as many outlets as possible. I mean, I find it it is disappointing when you know, personally, sometimes, when you have a film out in the week and you open a newspaper and it deserves a mention, or at least a mention or a review, and only 3 films have been released that week, and you know there's 15. Yeah. So the consumer isn't fully aware of what the choice is. Out there. And there are things, you know, and there are films that people will be reluctant or they're reluctant, or they wouldn't think at first it might appeal to them.
Yeah.
We've all done that. We've all sat down to watch a film going, oh, this is going to be rubbish. Yeah. Or I've never heard of this guy. And then they're like, actually, this is really good. I like this guy. And then and certainly for me, that will pique my interest. I go and find out more about the filmmaking. What else have they done? Yeah. What else has the writer done? Who's that actor? You know, like there's some nice. Personally, I feel those moments of discovery and almost just kind of just feeding my interest in the cinema.
Yeah, and revitalizing your passion for it, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's the other thing too. You've got to be able to be looking to something. Cinema is a diversion. It is an hour and a half. It's 2 hours in a different world. It'll take you away from all the stresses of your day, but also it'll inspire you and open your mind up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've never seriously, unlike yourself, studied film theory. But I think there's I'd imagine that there's a school of thought where there's multiple functions of film, in the sense that there's definitely an escapist function. Yeah. But there's also, which is probably a sub-school maybe of escapism, where you're just being thrown into the perspective of someone else you would never otherwise have been able to relate to.
Empathy, yeah.
Like an empathetic function. Yeah. So how long did you spend at altitude? How long have you spent at altitude, I guess?
2 years so far.
2 years so far. Good time?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Momentum and Altitude, I think, both companies who certainly what Momentum were doing, what we were doing at the time, is now almost the norm in terms of independent distribution. Mm-hmm. The way we're approaching releases, our array, our very broad slate. We went from releasing Mike Leigh movie one week to with Vera Drake, then having a Hobo with a Shotgun the next week. Yeah. So it's kind of we were interested in almost everything that was out there, and similarly, Altitude's got a similar approach.
Yeah. So is there there's not a theme or a voice which unites all the films you're saying? Well, what unites the choice of which films you take under your wing?
I think we take them on a case by case basis, and a film always has an audience. Yeah. Now you've got to be really conscious about what that audience is and what the value is in the market for that. Yeah. But if people were going to come up and say, do you want to release this big, you want to release Star Wars? It's like, right, well, yeah, there's a challenge for you, but you do it. But at the same time, do you want to release Being Frank, which is this story of Frank Sidebottom and Chris Seavey, and it's charming, it's fun, of course, yeah. It's just the sense of it's things that we would like. Yeah. I mean, there are films which do offer challenges in terms of this is a hard going film, but we think it's going to work. We can see the appeal in it. But you've got to marry that up and measure that up when it comes to commerciality versus art again. It's that big debate.
Is that a constant discussion in your well, not really in the office, but as a constant split mind when you're looking at a film, do you really have to take the commercial with the merit?
Yeah, I think so. Every distributor everyone who's exactly. If you want to maintain your business, you've got to be making money.
Yeah.
And you will do some you will see, right, this film is broad, but there's money in it. Yeah. And this may not be our particular taste, but we'll work it, and we'll work it as well as we can.
Yeah. And so do you work both at Altitude and as a consultant?
No, I'm full-time at Altitude.
Okay. Have you consulted previously on projects?
So a few things. I mean, I consulted with filmmakers direct, kind of talked about kind of self-distribution in crowdfunding a few years ago, which at the time was certainly people looking to fill some finance and reach an audience. And then worked on film solo as a freelancer and consulting. And then also just trying to get some other projects off the ground separately. TV and feature film.
Do you have a capacity as a creative producer as well? Do you create in your own projects?
I'd like to. I mean, I'd certainly entertain the idea.
Yeah.
It's quite hard as well, but you talk about what creative producing is, and that's it. It's like, well, what have you got? I've got an idea. Okay, well, where's your finance? I don't know. So it's like, where do you go with your idea?
Yeah.
And that, I think, that's the eternal problem in the industry. It's like, I've got an idea for something. Okay, well, where do you go next?
Yeah, that's the problem now, I think. Yeah, of course, once you make it to the big stages, you can have the idea, and then other people will carry that idea out to execution. Or other people will take care of the financing, the production, the distribution, the marketing, etc., etc. But the independent, no-budget film level, like at least with the feature that we worked on, it's like you said, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Because you have the idea, you find the funding, you write the script, you get the cast, you do the casting, etc., etc. But to a certain extent, I think I wouldn't change a thing. Not doing that solely for the rest of one's life,
right? But
having a hand in each stage of the process, unbelievably invaluable.
Yeah. Also, it's the time and kissing a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
You got to go through that, and also you got to maintain your your living standards. How do it's a full-time job, and if you're not getting paid, it's not a job. Or
multiple full-time jobs.
Ends up being a hobby. It's a side gig. But certainly, I like the idea of not just being a publicist, and I'm not, and that's the good thing about having my career so far. I've worked in very open companies. If you work in publicity in studios, generally you're siloed. Your function is publicity, and this is what you're doing today, and you'll do it tomorrow, and you'll do it the next week. The films will change, but you'll elevate eventually. But you're not essentially there for your marketing insights, or the idea about how you might want to work with another platform, or you might look for a home end opportunity.
Yeah, there's not much like creative thinking opportunities for outside the box.
No, that's it. I mean, and also they have all the resources they need. They've got budgets. Yeah. They've got a whole team behind. They can throw behind something. Yeah. And we don't have that. We've never really had that. I've always felt able to go out and just try whatever I want, within reason, of course, to try and get something going. And it's never. You're not going to go for the world's stupidest idea and the stupidest approach, but the idea is you can generally kind of take a different angle on something without actually jeopardizing the film
and your livelihood
and the livelihood or the reputation of the film or the filmmakers. There's always, I don't believe in there's no such thing as a bad idea, but you can try and reverse something and try and be a little bit more entrepreneurial.
Yeah. So you said, when you mentioned crowdfunding, you meant at the time that it was interesting. Do you think that the time has kind of passed for using that as a funding method?
I think direct to consumer is a better approach now.
Okay, in what sense?
Well, consumer, if you look, take a look at the home entertainment market, consumers now, from a distribution point of view, the best that we reach consumers by going through retailers, or a platform. But we don't have a brand. Disney is a brand. We know that. We are not a brand. However, there is a market where I think we measure up the risk on physical Blu-rays, DVDs. No one's making Steelbook limited editions, but I'm sure if you were to turn around and say, right, we want to do a limited edition version of this film from 4 or 5 years ago, we believe it has cult appeal. It's been a strong film that's continued on the platforms. We know there's an audience out there for it. You go to them. What do you want to see? What films would you like to own as a limited edition Steelbook? It's a lot of it's the idea that if the consumer wants us to put a film on Blu-ray, if we think we want to put a film on Blu-ray, who's telling us that's going to work in the market? It's generally the retailer, not the consumer.
Yeah, and I mean, there's an information gap between the retailer and the consumer, and then an information gap between the retailer and you. Why not just go straight to the consumer? Is what you're saying.
That's it. Just get some feedback at least for the first degree. The idea of like, what do you want to see?
Yeah.
Because we talked to a grocer who stocks only 20% of our films. That's how you know our films. Yeah. But effectively, if you want this HD version of a film which has never been released before, do you want it, and what additional bits do you want to add on to it?
Yeah. I guess it's the acquisition of those opinions, right? I didn't realize there's a cinema. George is based out of Montreal. I didn't realize there's a cinema in Montreal that when the film's finished, they will give you a free drink if you fill out a feedback form, just a questionnaire.
Right.
And then with the free drink, the person who's handing you the drink will look at your form and give you recommendations of other films you should see.
Oh, good.
So they're trying to maximize...
Curated.
Right? Curated and personal word of mouth, where it's another person telling you something instead of an app that's saying, oh, you should watch The Florida Padre.
So you like this, so you'll love this.
Exactly.
That's just a very good way of... Just, again, it kind of feeds that cultural appetite, but at least you're doing it on a personal level there. And everyone loves a free drink.
Yeah.
And it's not a free drink. You're giving away your data.
Exactly. Again, shit.
It comes around. But that is the other thing, I think, that the idea that, the environment where people are seeing their films is important. And, I know if I want to go and see an action movie, I want to see it on the biggest screen with the best sound system possible. But if I want to go and see something a little more lo-fi, a bit more edgy, I'm happy to sit in a comfortable chair, and I'm not worried about the Atmos not being plugged in. But that's the other thing. The idea we want people to have as much choice as possible to see films in general. That's my opinion. I don't believe an action movie is going to look great on my TV setup at home. But if it gives me the opportunity to watch it at home at the same time as in cinemas I'm paying for it, I will pay for it.
Yeah.
So we're trying. That's one good thing about the guys I've worked with, the teams I've worked with, is just the sense of we want to try things differently. We do day and date. We do a lot of event films, event releases. We do standard 16-week windows. We do short windows, broken windows, and we do straight to DVD releases. So it's like there is a straight to home end releases.
Yeah.
But there is a whole different way of cutting and approaching these things.
There's a few questions I want to ask you, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think the concept of experimenting, especially in the cinema, is really interesting in the sense that I think VR is kind of the cutting edge of that, in the sense that the principles they're applying, they have a whole concept of inboarding and outboarding. So I think a cinema does a good job of inboarding you into the film, in the sense that you have the title sequence, you have some trailers, everyone's excited, the lights go down, you're in the film.
Yeah.
But then the outboarding process, I think, is atrocious at cinemas.
Like
the lights come up, you have to get out, you walk through usually it's a pretty crappy corridor, it's noise, you get blown out. VR is spending so much time figuring out how to transition people back into the world,
right?
Which I think is really important if you want them to continue discussing the film and the concepts that it relates to once they leave the cinema.
Yeah, as opposed to just get out because there's a new bunch of people coming in.
Exactly, you're out in the cold, you're bleary-eyed.
And we've got to sweep up the popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do want to circle back a little bit to crowdfunding.
Okay.
When you consult on crowdfunding, what kind of platforms have you worked with before? Kickstarter, Indiegogo?
Yeah. So it's Kickstarter, Indiegogo. They were the main ones.
Yeah.
At the time.
Have you heard of Greenlit?
No.
It's a new. I think they maybe only have. We use them. They only have 9 to 12 titles now, I think.
Right.
I think there's a guy called Peter Story in the UK.
Okay, I recognize that name.
Yeah, he does a lot of the events around town. I met him at an event. I met him at the not Film Disruptors, because I know you've worked with them, but the Filmmakers podcast with Giles Alderson.
Okay.
He's been with them a few times. They have events around London, and he's come to a couple of those, but we were his first feature film to fund on his platform.
Okay.
Which is a pretty low bar, because I think we were also the first feature film to be on the platform.
Right, that's good. You're a pioneer.
But it's basically just similar to Seed and Spark. It's an independent film only crowdfunding platform. But I think before that, like you say, there was only really Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Are there any, so especially around for the films that are of the budgets, not the PR budgets, but the actual budgets to get the film made, are around 50 to 150K.
Right.
So sort of micro budget films. Were you working with films that are around that size when you were consulting on the crowdfunding side of things?
It was a mix. It was a couple of things. Mostly doc. I mean, this is a lot of people looking at it and saying, right, I've got here's the band, a lot of music docs. Here's the band. They want to make a movie about their lives, their careers. They've got all this stuff they filmed in the 80s because people started having cameras everywhere. They've got loads of behind the scenes bits and pieces. Let's have a story looking back now. And most of them are kind of that line. And because again, there's a commercial line there. And again, we talked about documentaries earlier. Docs are easier to make now. You can edit it on your laptop. You can film it on your phone. You can put it all together as long as you got the clearances and everything else to go into it.
And I think you've got to get a decent animator to be able to stitch the story together.
Yeah, you've got to find your narrative.
Yeah.
But it's so that's generally that was the kind of the bulk of them which we were kind of helping with.
That's incredible.
And again, there's also a fan base.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think at least now, when again, I don't want to continue to preach on it, but from the independent film perspective, a lot of people, like you say, don't really think about distribution. They expect to be able to go to a distributor, hand the film, and say, "Hey, can you do all the work?" If you go to, I think the beauty of Naomi McDougall-Jones, she now has, when she did the person that did the 52 screenings around the US, she did a documentary on the whole thing.
Okay.
So she now has a 12-part documentary series of people coming out of the film and saying, we're lifelong fans, like, I love this film.
Yeah.
So she then goes to a distributor, say, here's an activated audience fan base.
Yeah.
We need your help magnifying that.
Yeah, I mean, that is completely, that is something that people have really not spent time in the past.
Yeah.
They go, here's the film. You had a young cast, the young subject matter. It's like, all right, what are your social numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hadn't really got around to that yet. It's like, you should have been doing that from day one.
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything with it. But you've got a cast and a crew. You've got a location. You've got people walking around saying, what's going on here? This is the film. And they didn't catch all that. And actually, at the end of the day, particularly when you're trying to target specific audiences, and we know that social media and Facebook, that's their business, is to monetize that targeting. It was a missed opportunity, massively. And you can't retrospectively go out and do it.
I know, that's a heartbreaking thing, right?
You can't say, we'll start it next week and we'll get all the 300 people in the crew.
Just reenact the pretend shooting.
It is, and that's something that people really really don't think about. Yeah. And I think, you talk about the role of creative producing. That was very much something I was pointing out. It's like, you can go through the motions and make the film. I know the pressure is very much getting your deadlines and getting your budget and getting your film delivered, but you're missing out if you're not banking stuff socially or building a social page. Just material, and it could be as simple as a 5-second video message. Today I'm getting blown up. Or here's me in a makeup chair, or someone, just generally getting some bits and pieces around the cast and on the set. And most people go, well, that's just your standard EPK or your standard stills. Those are the traditional deliverables, but you need something a bit more than that nowadays.
Yeah, or at least it makes you stand apart now. Yeah, to a certain extent, but I think people really are starting to catch on.
Yeah, that's it, and it's savvy, and also having people have phones. On your phone, you can film anything. We recommend it. We've had crew cast we'll bung them a phone, and that's their phone. That's their phone to just film around the set.
Amazing.
Do a quick tour, do a quick message, and then that's something we'll have for our release. We can say, all right, here's behind the scenes short video, and that is far more effective than saying, right, here are our standard EPK interviews, which we filmed while the director is worrying about light fading and an actor not wanting to do a scene the way he wants it. So he's sitting going, really enjoying working on the film. Oh yeah, I was drawn to the script. It's fantastic. And
now fuck off.
And I was like, please, can I get over this? Yeah, I've got to go and shoot this before someone gets hurt.
There's a couple of really incredible films that have done documentaries post-production where I think usually it's like the director or the producer will film footage while it's going on and then release it as a documentary afterwards. Yeah. And that's just, so I guess my question from that is, do you have any kind of quandary between, do you think the film suffers if while you're making the film, you over-obsess about how to make it as popular as possible? Yeah.
Depends on what time, it depends on what point it is. You don't want to be, if you've got a film which is a mystery or as a hook, you don't want to be giving away too much socially, overtly. You want to be, you want to be teasing it out there. You're marketing the film on your socials. You don't want to be telling everyone, here's the film about Timmy, and Timmy turns into this guy, but actually it's Bob. You don't want to be talking about it explicitly. You've got to be like drip feeding it and being a bit more coy and smart about it. At the same time, you don't know that film in the edit might change. Timmy might not be in it as much as Bob was. Yeah. So you're in this.
And then it was Dale all along.
Yeah, the shape of the film might change, within the edit. So you don't want to be going too far, and also you've got to at various points you've got to stop and measure. Right, what is this film? What's the scale of it? What do we think the business could be on this film? Because that's going to dictate your spend, your P&A.
Yeah.
Your revenue, what you forecast, is going to let you inform how much money you're going to actually put into it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go too much. You don't want to put too much money in and have to scale back. But at the same time, you don't want to put too little and then realize you're short, and actually you could have afforded to put another couple £1,000 in.
Yeah.
But I think and it requires a lot of the expertise that we talked about earlier. The distributor is the expert. The filmmakers need to appreciate that. If they think the market for the film is X, keep it as X. They're not going to be completely. They can't be explicitly wrong. They can't be so wrong they're going to mismarket a film. I mean, it has happened, but I don't think you have to take their advice. The distributors are the guys who knows. The marketeers know how to market the film. The publicists know how to publicize the film. The sales guys know how they're going to sell it and where they're going to sell it, and when it's going to be released.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into full consideration. And that's that trust, and that is that collaboration.
Yeah. You said that before that you were experimenting with different forms. In terms of on the point of collaboration, how much of a result have you gotten from events-based cinema?
So we've done really well. We've had some real successes, and it works because here is your film. You're throwing it into a very competitive market. Traditional releases, I want 150, 200 cinemas, and I want 3 shows a day in all the busiest, best cinemas on the market. And they go, right, well, we can't give you those. We'll give you that to an extent. You won't get all your shows, and next week you'll be off the screens if the film doesn't work. And the film's going to be very difficult to find in 6 weeks. But when the film has a core audience, when we know there's a fan base, whether it's a musician or an artist or there's a cause around it, then we know we can target that audience and say, right, we're going to mobilize you as early as possible, because we know that you want to see this film.
Yeah.
And what we'll also do around it is we'll add something else on. We'll do a concert, we'll do a talk, we'll do some additional content that goes out. So whether it's live or slightly pre-recorded, you will get something in addition to the film that no one else is going to get. And then you
have to get them out of the house, right?
Yeah, and you've got to be there. And you've got to be there on the night. You've got to get yourself to the cinema. It might be in 6 months, it might be in 2 months, it might be in a year, but this is going to be something that you in particular, and you're going to bring a friend or two, are going to be, you're going to be really excited about. So that's worked for us. It also makes it easier for the cinemas, because they're not having to give over a whole week worth of shows and contribute or at least commit to a run. They know if they can pack in that fan base into that one show, that'll be a full house.
Yeah.
And then they can offer other cinemas.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of pressure off that. And then also we know that we'll shorten the window. So whatever the event is, on the 2 nights before, that'll be the event. 2 days, 3 days later, the film's everywhere.
Yeah.
On digital, on home end, you can go. So you can go to the event on the Tuesday night. You can watch it live. You can watch the film. You can go, this is amazing. It's brilliant. And I'm walking out. And I pre-ordered the DVD, and that's going to arrive on the Monday morning.
And then I guess it's also, you've seen the film. You try and get as many people to post about it as possible. And then one of our guests before, Deborah Shepherd, she made a good point that once you need to take advantage of the momentum while it's happening. I think a lot of people say you have like a festival run, you then approach a distributor 3 months later, and you won an award at this festival. 3 months on, you approach a distributor. I think the only thing they're going to be thinking is, who's turned this down in the 3 months that you've taken to come and see us?
Yeah, I think so.
And so I think the same principle applies to once you have an event. You are going to have one event. You need to make sure that if people are sharing the film, you need to be able to get it online.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's the platform. And that, the timings are quite difficult sometimes now, because you need to have lead times to deliver the film to the platforms, and then you've got to have lead times to manufacture the discs, get the cinemas or take the retailers to buy in the stock. And then also you've got to have the lead time to mobilize the audience to get to the event. Buy tickets now. It's like it's a concert mentality. It's like going to the theater. You buy your tickets generally for a hot show 6 months in advance, or even further in advance. I'm getting peppered with news about who's touring next July.
I know. You see some people. I've seen 2021.
Yeah, people commit. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to buy my tickets because I know I want to be there.
And I mean, maybe I think people would do that for the next Scorsese. People would do that for the next Linklater film. But if you're an unknown, are people really going to buy that far in advance for you?
No, but if you've got a band which has a huge fan base.
So that's the thing. Say if you've got a band, you have a core audience base. If you've got a cause, you've got people that at least congregate in places like NGOs and community events that you can then mobilize as well. If you've got a coming of age drama comedy film,
yeah,
is the only way you can mobilize a fan base by drawing on comparisons?
Yeah, I mean, you look to see how similar films have played in the market. Of course, I mean, there's no formula to any of this.
No.
But yeah, you might, if you've got a film which you think is going to be, going back to the idea of being discovered, needs to be discovered, then there are lots of different ways. Do you look at a local festival? Do you look at a slightly larger festival to play the film? Do you look at it as a standard release? Is it themed to anything, a season, an event? A kind of, which makes it newsworthy and relevant. You just take time and say, right, how much time do we have? How strong do we think the film is? Is there anything else in the market we might be competing against that we want to avoid? There's loads of factors you have to take in consideration. But generally, you want to give it the best release that you can, and also within budgetary reasons.
Yeah.
So very often, and actually, it's kind of this has become harder to do because there is so much more out there for people to be paying attention to. Yeah. A very long lead press screening is generally the approach. The idea that if you can screen a film 4 or 5 months in advance, and then you want to get people growing and building the momentum around it and finding out the interest, it gives you time to determine, right, what's the critical thinking? Do we feel like it's landing? Are people interested in writing about it?
Yeah.
In print magazines, are we going to get the big glossy magazines writing about it? Is it on the cultural radar? Are people talking about this film coming out, we've announced in summer? Are they saying this is a film to watch in 2020, or this is one of the summer films that people must go and see alongside all the big blockbusters? Or is the response quite tepid? Is it just like not giving us any clear indication? Are there any champions? Are there reactions and reviews looking quite weak? So then you have to gauge back and say, right, well, maybe we don't screen it as much. Our expectations are limited. We have to reframe it.
Do you lower the budget in that case?
Possibly.
How do you if you try to make a splash or you throw something at the wall and it doesn't stick? how do you then respond? How do you cut your losses?
You need to look at your advertising budget.
Okay.
And often the case, your talent budget is generally set. If someone's coming in, you can't say, right, well, we're not going to put you in a nice hotel, we're going to put you in a worse hotel. Yeah. You've got to maintain that relationship. But it's your advertising. So do you say, right, we were going to commit to some television spend, but now we've seen the reaction, we're going to pull our TV spend. So we're going to focus purely on online or some radio here or there. And then alternatively, if you've got a small budget, the film's really landing, you think, right, well, we think we've got a better chance of this film.
Yeah.
Let's explore some TV.
Yeah.
So you can crank up your budget.
Yeah.
So you're constantly just taking a gauge of where you stand in things. And that's part of being smart and savvy and not starting. You want to start small and grow. You don't want to be at the point where you've got to pull everything back, change a release date, re-communicate what the film's release is, because then that'll just cause confusion.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. People do have to move films' release dates quite late, quite short. So I've seen ads with the wrong dates on them.
Yikes.
So if I'm waiting for this, I'm waiting for this film, and then it's like, oh, it's coming out in March.
Yeah.
And then it's nowhere to see, and I look online, it's like, oh, it's coming out in May.
Yeah.
All right, that's a bit confusing. All right, that's weird. That's kind of.
And you already created a sense of.
Yeah, it's like damaged goods.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's really confusing. And
Yeah.
how come I didn't know about that?
Yeah.
But that might move for other reasons. It might just be that,
it's too competitive.
Too competitive, or other factors involving some of the filmmakers, availabilities, and other opportunities that might come in. But that's what you want to avoid. You try and plan so you can avoid all those things.
Yeah. On your budget point, do you have any thoughts on what's your biggest bang for a buck? Biggest bang for your buck, at least with the films at Altitude market, so like big budget independent. Do you have a sense of what the biggest bang for the buck is? I know we mentioned 80-20 previously. What 20% of activities deliver 80% of the returns?
Yeah. No, not necessarily, because we're doing things. So we're a whole range of different releases. Mm-hmm. So it's the form. There's no necessary formula. We just do. We talk a lot. We kind of gauge where we think things are going to work, where the weaknesses are. Yeah, you'll be able to get some. You'll be able to test the water when it comes to kind of exhibition interest and response, press. Critical kind of gauge, also then just retailer interest. So it does help dictate kind of our approach to it. It isn't necessarily that we say, right, we want our budget to have as much impact as possible. We know that much, but we also know that there is a reality that you can dress something up and you can scale up, but part of that is because you want to keep the filmmakers happy, or you want to maintain that relationship. Or we are experimenting occasionally.
Yeah. Hyper tailored, essentially.
Yeah, we do take a few punts here and there. We try things differently in some degree, and then we have to, because there are different platforms out there. There's different ways of marketing and communicating. Especially if it's event cinema is in itself is very difficult to explain to people in the press. When should they run their review? Because they go, right, well, the film's out on Friday. It's like, yeah, but that's in a handful of cinemas. On the Tuesday, it's playing in 250, 300 cinemas. Yeah. So I want the review to run the previous Friday. No, well, it's not out then. Well, I have to keep explaining this to you. And so people still aren't fully cottoned on. That consumer confusion has still not been fully rectified. And I think it will continue to be a bit confusing and muddling. For people. In order, how do they talk about film? How do they talk about seeing the film? Not only how do they talk about the film. So we're constantly trying to readdress that, and the landscape's shifting, and it's been shifting, I'd say, realistically for the past 15 years. It's going to shift again in the next year, 2 years.
It seems like it's just in a state of constant evolution.
Yeah,
people are just throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. Yeah, hoping for the best.
And who will be standing in 5 years in terms of the big platforms? Who's going to be where will this polarization continue? Because I think it's in the UK particularly, it's very polarized. Again, there are small single entity independents, and then there are these massive looming content owners.
I mean, I think at least Altitude relatively is a fairly large shark in the pond, or in the ocean. Because I mean, there's other distribution companies that every 6 months they're being acquired by a different company, and they're just being folded into another conglomerate.
That's it. Chewing up the libraries, and the libraries is given more of a kind of a long form back end to exploit. And I think I think there are the crunching of these big conglomerates are throwing out a lot of really talented people. Hopefully they're still they're talented and passionate and able to find other areas within the industry to help kind of just to spin it out and make it even more dynamic. And that's part of the challenge everyone needs to be thinking. It's like, all right, okay, this is all happening now, but we need to make it dynamic. At the end of the day, the consumer is the important person. So again, and we're going to have it, look at, you can launch a platform, but you're going to make sure people on it know how to use it and that it works. But at the same time, we know that people still want to go to the cinemas. So there are cinemas, the price point has been changing in some of the cinemas. That have been going down, so it's making it more accessible, which is a good thing. But everyone's just got so much on their plate. We can all sit down now and watch hours of TV or film or documentary on our phones and not have to leave the room
until you die. There's enough content.
It's all there, and that's the thing. We're all trying to get people to just in a room for an hour and a half watching our stuff. And just being inspired and just being entertained. And there's just so much out there.
So in terms of getting someone in a room as a thought experiment, if you have to market a film that comes to you, coming of age, like we said before, drama, comedy, similar, I guess, similar in themes to like Florida Project. Have you seen Peanut Butter Falcon Boy?
Not yet. No.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Really enjoyable.
Again, the buzz.
Yeah,
Great.
So exactly. The buzz around that, definitely bankable stars. But I'm guessing, have you consulted on a project that didn't have a band behind it or some kind of star or name behind it? Or you always made sure that was an element of the equation?
Yeah, a range of things.
Okay.
Challenges. You know, there was some great films. I've got a frog in my throat, sorry. We're off filming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just kind of slid right into
I know.
it.
I was going to say you're getting emotional about this film, did you?
No. There are loads of films. There are a few films that you do because you've got to keep working, right? And the next film might be a challenge. The next film might be a lot easier. It might be your cup of tea. But I've definitely worked on some films which are you need to come for a different approach again. And actually, it's worked to some extent.
So, can you name an example?
As a freelancer, or as in general, like an overall.
Freelancer.
We worked on it. So It Follows was a really fun film to watch. Again, a film that defied horror convention for the traditional horror fans.
But you also have the audience following, the horror following. You know.
Yeah. What I mean? So it had had some cool cachet around it, and it was a film where we just knew that you get them in the screen, they'll watch the film, and in a mass group of people, it just plays well. And that's the thing, and that happens to quite a lot of films. When you feel you get everyone to see the film, and the buzz will come out of it, and that's where you'll get your champions in the word of mouth. Again, though, It Follows. It's very lo-fi.
Yeah.
It's not traditional horror. It makes who's the director? No one's in it. I recognize. And it's
just excessively high concept.
Yeah, it's just it's just a teen movie, but they do some weird stuff in it.
Teen movie to be then scarred for life for the rest of your existence.
Exactly.
Have you seen this movie, George? It Follows?
It's a good film. It's fun. It's a fun film, but you can have fun with it.
You can have fun with it. I used that was one of the first films where when I was a student I used to project films onto like a wall.
Yeah.
And you stick a couple mustaches onto the wall.
Yeah.
So then when the face lines up with the mustache, you take a shot.
Okay.
Perfect for that film.
That sounds like a good idea.
That film without that, oof.
But it's good. I mean, that was the fun. It was open ended. It was playful. A lot of people didn't get it.
Okay.
Some people thought it was just a bit like indie, nothing happened, and what was it all about? But that was quite interesting as well because it just sparked conversation. And of course now online, everyone, if you say you don't like something, people will come after you. Or at least be like, what? It's the classic trolling and just looking to get yourself a bit of attention online by saying that film made no sense, and then the debate sparks.
Yeah. That's the thing I think that relates to like just a wider point. If you say something online, the easiest way to get attention is to say literally the opposite of the person.
Absolutely. Contrarianism is people, actually a lot of critics like to be contrary. If 8 people in the room like it, then the 9th guy's like, well, actually, I hated it.
Yeah, and then everybody that hates it then bounds around that one guy.
That's it. So, and then that's it. But the guy's like, why do you not like it? It Follows is a great film to work on in that sense. In the sense of, right, here we go, here's a challenge. But it had some it had some really good festival buzz already to that point. So we weren't having to launch it from scratch. We knew that there was already something out there to play off of. But there's been other films which have been challenging, and films which have great festival reputations that don't. You go into it, you talk about the timing. It's like, why is it taking so long for the film to get to this point?
Yeah. Or even it's horrific the amount of films that have gotten lucky enough and successful enough to get into Sundance and then either haven't got a distribution deal afterwards, or the distribution deal has just been an absolute disaster afterwards. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of films that have never made it to this side of the pond, never made it to the UK market. Yeah. Which again, it gives value to some of those people who pirate it because they go, well, it's never been released here, and I found it online, and that's there's a few incidents like that over the years. Snowpiercer being a famous example, or an infamous example of piracy just driving a film. I mean, I've worked on films too like that have been the kind of indie breakout hits in the States, and you don't have the opportunity to. It takes you so long to get it for the UK, and you gear it up and you've lost so much value. Well, the buzz is still there, and just people already seen it. They pass it around. Links go flying around online because they must see this film because everyone's talking about it. So there's So I guess there's a lot of inbound from the West. Do you at Altitude or personally, do you ever look to the East that much for incoming content or for audiences?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Asian film, certainly European cinema, Australian cinema when it travels. Some of it's traveled well recently.
I'm always amazed to find out how many cities have Australian film festivals.
Yeah, and New Zealand.
Places. Yeah,
but it is. I think there's a nice breadth, and I'm always a fan of the original, not the remake. Yeah. So you look at the Japanese horrors all being remade now; it's continuing to be remade. Go and watch the originals, the Koreans. There's some really great stuff there, and it's all. Where I've worked on some really fun films like Train to Busan and the Babadook, and all from that era and all that area, the East. International market, and they're good. They're strong stories. Yeah, and it's fun storytelling. And again, it's not just all about the US when it comes to film. Of course, we all want to do business with some of the US filmmakers, mainly because it's all based there. And if you get a distribution deal, you're working with a sales agent from the US, and that's great. But there is still a sense of US first when it comes internationally. That's quite hard to get around. So release dates, we have to follow the US. The US dictate these things. It's not in every film, but some films it can be the case, and you can get a little bit frustrating because you want to do something in your market. It makes sense for your market, but the holdback with them is very much, the commitment is US first. Yeah. You are secondary. Doesn't matter the subject matter. Doesn't matter if the actor is UK or whatever it is. You do find yourselves trying to be dictated to by the US. Yeah, they have all the
cards effectively.
Well, they think they do. That's the other issue. They often don't. I mean, some of these, it comes back to this collaborative thing. Yeah. It's like you need to appreciate that what works for our market won't be detrimental to your market. So let us release the film, say same day as you, or even a little bit earlier than you, and you can see that happening on some of the studio titles where films were released outside of the US before a US release. But certainly independently, there is a sense of we want to work together as much as possible, because if you just run off and do your own thing, it's going to take us 6 months for us to get our film in place, and we'll have fallen into that piracy trap.
Yeah, and ultimately detriments the US company.
Exactly. And then why do we want to do as much business with you next time? Not if you're going to just be purely self-interest.
Yeah, a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
Bit of a jump, but in terms of, have you done much, it sounds like you've done work or consulting with festivals?
Not really. Okay. I've worked with them purely as distributor.
Okay. Do you think, is there still, what's your 2 cents on the value of festivals rather than just going straight to distribution?
I think they're good. Well, for a film that hasn't been acquired. Mm-hmm. I think it's positive. I think the key thing is it's where your ambitions lie. Films can be discovered in festivals still. It's a very rare thing now. Most films, if they make it to a festival in the UK, have had distribution discussions already, and some people wanted to see how a film plays, whether there's an audience for it, or how well it plays. So if people are non-committal, festivals are an opportunity to see how it plays within UK audiences. Yeah. I mean, we've had it. We worked on, we acquired, when I was at Altitude, we acquired, Momentum. When I was at Momentum, we acquired Sotzi at the Edinburgh Film Festival. So here's a film that obviously went on to win foreign language Oscar that year. Was a breakout hit. Gavin Hood, great director, and he really helped cement his career. And that was a film that we were tapped onto at Edinburgh, which makes you think, right, why weren't we already aware of the film up to that point in terms of what was the sales agent doing? But we saw it at Edinburgh, and we took it at Edinburgh, which was quite rare at the time. Yeah. But you wouldn't normally expect Edinburgh at the time, which was in August, to get tapped on the shoulder and say, "Oh, this film is available. Do you want to take it?" But there are films that do come in and they don't have distribution, and distributors will line up and say, "Right, okay, I've seen it at London. Maybe the film played at Toronto. Maybe the film played at Venice. Yeah. Come to London, have a chance to see it with an audience." and it gives them a chance to measure up their idea.
Yeah.
And they would have heard the right distributor would have been made aware of the right film throughout the process. So it is quite rare for a film to appear in London without distribution.
Yeah, because everyone's just so plugged in. You'll have heard whispers, murmurs.
Well, that's it. I mean, if your sales agent's doing the right job and your distributor's doing the right job, then everybody should be across what the radar is, and what's coming into market and what's available.
And I guess it's just being filmmakers that at least on the lower end budget level, you have to have the wherewithal to either find a sales agent or manage to do the work yourself, which from a sales agent perspective is difficult. It's such a relationship based.
Yeah, job, exactly. You know? It's huge that you got to know the right people, and you have to know them well enough for them to actually give you time.
Yeah.
And then also, the right people might be the people that say it's not one for us, but what about these guys? And just be the generosity and consideration, which a lot of people, the nice guys in the industry, and they do exist. They often do. I mean, we've been suggested films by other distributors because it's not for them, it's not their genre, or they have too many films, and same way that people I work with will recommend other people in the business to help people out. But I mean, that's what makes Sundance interesting, though. The idea, let's see, Sundance how it used to be. That was where new films would just pop, or Cannes would happen sometimes. You go and you find a film which had not been on your radar. Of course, it does mean that sometimes people do overvalue a film, or we've had it where people have been blaming the altitude sickness for buying a film, and then you bring it back to kind of ground zero and you're like, watching it's like, this was so much funnier.
But it's the hype, right?
It's the hype, exactly, and that does happen.
Is there a festival that you think has replaced Sundance of being the film that would find a darling and it would pop?
Not really. Sundance, I think, has become, it's kind of, people have so many different theories of Sundance. I've never been, but outward looking in, it seems to have just eaten itself a bit. It became too commercial, it was too cool, it was too hip, and then it was just like, okay, well, all these films are really commercial, and studios are all lining up, and they've already got them, and the pre-buy is been announced the day before the morning of the film premiering that night. So, but I think that's, people are still trying to navigate around it. Not every film can get into Sundance. South by Southwest is obviously taking on a little bit more interest in terms of where cool films might go. Berlin's still an important market. Still a couple of films with more European flavor will turn up there. Then Cannes is just carnage. Well, that's it. I mean, it's also the personalities and the egos and the expectation around it.
I mean, what to you is the key difference from a distributor's perspective attending a festival as opposed to a market like AFM? I assume your objectives are pretty different. Yeah,
I mean, most sales guys go in saying, right, you do the deals that you're laying down the foundations every market. Not only for you're laying out, like, I'd say the next year, you want to be able to get a slate driven. You're financing a slate. But when you've got a world premiere and you're unveiling a film, then that's where Cannes, Berlin, and Toronto come into the fore. The market's great because it's still happening, and you're still finding out about projects, and you're pitching your own project. You're pulling in a bit of finance here, there, and all over the place. But when you've got that film, you can come back to Cannes 2 years later, and here is the world premiere of this film. That again adds sheen to you as a distributor, as a sales agent, as a producer, because you are saying, right, this is the film that was conceived and brought together. We launched the deal in Cannes. Here we are. We're back 2 years later, and here's the world premiere, and it's very glamorous. We're on it's the Palais. It's a big red carpet night. It's it's great publicity. Yeah.
What's your take on TIFF, on Toronto?
TIFF, I think, is important for. It's important for kind of international distributors coming to the US and seeing what else is there. It's a bit like Sundance. I think it took a few years ago, and I think the people running the festival realized that the commercial big films running into the awards run were overshadowing a lot of the gems. So, which were there to be bought. But you still get some great stories of films that are found at TIFF or launched at TIFF that gather the momentum and then go through to great success. Moonlight being a very good example. But also TIFF's got the Midnight Madness strand, so it's not just about the awards winners. It's not about it's not about the deals that are going on in the market, but it's also about the genre titles, which people might go, "Oh, it's great! This film's like insane! The audience loved it." So you might be able to find business there.
Yeah.
So, but it's a strong festival, and I think it's got a lot of respect.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, a bit of an off-the-wall question: if you were to talk to a college graduate, probably maybe yourself when you left, but you're pretty driven, pretty passionate about film from a publicity distribution angle.
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
Go work for a hedge fund.
Go work for a hedge fund.
No, I wouldn't. I'd say. No, it's interesting. The advice is to just sit and listen. You got to. Yeah, the phrase "pay your dues" is a little bit harsh, but you've got to go through the motions. You've got to learn. You've got to work your way up. You've got to be making coffee. You've got to be, in my day, faxing the hundreds of press releases out. You've got to be boxing at press kits. You've got to just sit and kind of. You got to work through it, and I mean that's what I did, and that's what I was expecting to do.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. You've got to really appreciate that you're going to sit and learn, you're going to listen, and every time you listen, you're going to learn. And you're going to just build up your experience. And you're going to learn from failures. You're going to learn more from failure than you're going to learn from success, because you're going to have to think about how you approach things different, how you manage things differently.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if I was going to talk to my own self, I just kind of do what you're gonna do anyway.
Do what you're doing.
But don't expect overnight success. And even if you get overnight success, you're gonna want something else.
Yeah. There has to be something more driving you.
It's got to be more driven, and that's it. I mean, I've had a really great career so far. But I've worked with lots of people. I've made really best friends. I've met my wife. And, so there's a really good, and all in a very positive way. And everyone's, I know we're not saving lives here, but it's entertaining, and it's always been something. It's always great when you just find someone talking about film that you've worked on, because then you can relate to them. Or they ask you what films you're working on. They say, right, well, this is the film that's coming up. You're gonna love it. You're gonna like it. This won't be your cup of tea.
It's just a chance to connect.
Yeah, it's a really good. Film is something that everyone, I think, does appreciate. Even people who don't watch film.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really believe them, but. When you can, and it's slightly diverging, but when you can say to someone, all right, you love action movies, or you love this, I'm going to show you a film now which you wouldn't have seen this film because it's foreign language. You don't like foreign language, but when you get someone converted a little bit,
it's a thrill.
It's a good thrill, and they go, oh yeah, I really like that film. It's like introducing, someone might say, I really love. Punk bands. This punk band now is like, right, well, listen, I'm going to give you here. Listen to the X-ray specs. Listen to some of these bands. Listen to television. Listen to all these post-punk. It's like, oh my god, it's great. It is good because you just you're feeding this cultural appetite a little bit.
Yeah, you're expanding their world.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun bit, and that's one of the gratifying things about working in the industry.
Totally. I think we're out of time. You get to wrap. Awesome. Thanks so much.
That was long. How long was that? Like an hour and a half?
That was an hour and a half.
Nice.